Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Day Shift. Day Shift is an American action comedy that tells the story of Bud Jablonski, a blue-collar worker of the San Fernando Valley who does his best to make a living for his family as a pool cleaner. However, this turns out to be a front, as he instead makes most of his money as a vampire hunter. His ex-wife breaks the news that she plans to move to Florida with their daughter unless he can make enough money to pay for living expenses. With little time to waste, Bud is able to become re-employed in a union committed to destroying vampires, working alongside a union rep while uncovering a conspiracy that threatens to take over the valley. This movie reminded me of old school 80s and 90s action flicks, and I say that in a good way. There are some downsides to this kind of approach, but they're mostly overshadowed by a fun pair of protagonists and a variety of entertaining action scenes. Jamie Foxx plays the lead role of Bud, and anyone who's seen his comedy works in the past will have a good idea of what to expect. He drops one-liners with the right amount of casual charisma that lightens the mood without being overly cheesy in delivery. As for his character, he owns the role of an experienced vampire hunter with several tricks up his sleeve, and is also sympathetic in the way he loves and provides for his family. His backstory isn't complex, but for the kind of movie it's striving to be, it still gets the job done in fleshing him out a bit beyond being a standard action hero. His field partner Seth, played by Dave Franco, doesn't have quite as much personality, but is still enjoyable to an extent. He's a typical preppy dude who gags at the sight of violence, which makes for some amusing scenes when he can barely hold his own against the vampires. He's very by the book and impractical with many things he does, though this aspect isn't played up a whole lot. He's not a bad character by himself, but I personally prefer Bud's more straightforward personality than Seth's awkwardness. It doesn't matter much though, because this movie is clearly designed to be a buddy action flick, and these two are fantastic together. They both have lots of great back and forth banter with each other, and are easily the heart of what makes everything else in this movie work as well as it does. Bud's no-nonsense nature and Seth's uptight disposition frequently clash with hilarious effect. One moment Seth will freak out at the sight of a gun, while Bud will break union protocol. I never knew what to expect out of their interactions, which made their dynamic that much more fun to watch. But even though they initially go together like oil and water, they start to gel as Seth gets more field experience and Bud opens up to him more. They still have moments where they quarrel with each other, but the bond they have is natural in how it develops, which makes them more believable as vampire hunters who have each other's backs. I was surprised with how many other characters were featured in this movie as well, though they all vary in terms of memorability. Snoop Dogg has a funny role as one of Bud's close friends, and though he's not in the movie much, he definitely makes his presence known. By contrast, I found the main villain Audrey to be a bit cliché. It is interesting with how she goes after other vampires in the beginning, and I thought the movie would have expanded on this more, but it never really goes anywhere. Beyond this, she doesn't stand out much as a villain. She reminded me of another vampire movie on Netflix called Night Teeth, with how she wants to take over the California landscape like the vampires in that movie did. There just wasn't a lot of original thought behind her, except for how she occasionally speaks Spanish to her victims, which comes off as corny instead of threatening due to the flashy subtitles on screen. A lot of effort was put into building this movie's world and its vampires, which I always appreciate seeing in fantasy settings, however modern they are. There are so many little things put into this movie that make it stand out from other vampire flicks like it. Other hunters work alongside Bud and Seth, vampire teeth are traded for hard currency, and the entire backstory behind the Union are just a few examples. Even the variety of gadgets Bud uses against vampires like garlic grenades and musk, which suppresses human scents, are quite novel. There are times when the movie slows down quite a bit though on account of its world building. The number of Union codes, math involved with teeth prices, and just the overall amount of exposition as Bud and Seth go about their business is unnecessary and disrupts the pacing of the story. There was one detail that I actually look forward to hearing more of, in that there are supposedly multiple types of vampires that vary according to their origin, ranging from being juvenile and zombie-like to being solitary and gigantic. However, the movie never really explores this, as all the vampires look and act the same despite what other characters say. And at the end of the day, the vampires themselves are pretty much the same as they've always been. They're still hurt by sunlight, they're still invisible on mirrors, and they're still not big fans of garlic. It does shake things up by giving them a sunscreen that allows them to move during the day, which is nice, but their overall blandness is still disappointing. This disappointment came and went though, thanks to its biggest selling point, the action. This is what made the movie work so well for me. I didn't realize until after watching that this movie was directed by a former stuntman and produced by the director of the John Wick movies. And knowing this after the fact, I can see their stamp all over this movie. There are so many fun brawls and set pieces in it, it's enough to make your head spin. What makes them so fun is the way the vampires contort their bodies and are easily able to dodge attacks, which forces Bud and company to be quick on their feet and get creative in how they go about killing them. The brawls and gunfights never felt the exact same in each scene, which is something I notice modern action movies tend to have a problem with. It's never just one dude punching or shooting another dude. The vampires' erratic movements, the different gadgets hunters use, and the sheer variety of the stunt choreography keeps the movie consistently fresh and exciting to watch. The movie does not skimp on violence either. It's not uncommon to see rooms raining blood and body parts with as many non-CG effects as possible, which allows for even more creativity with the action, and I'm grateful that I didn't notice any close-up shaky cam shots either. The filmmakers knew exactly how to film an action scene, and this experience pays off in spades. It was interesting to see how much of this movie takes place during the day, which makes sense given the title and character circumstances, but it really made for a breath of fresh air from other vampire movies. The daylight allows the audience to see the action better, especially the car chase, which was awesome, and it gives the audience a chance to appreciate the cinematography of the San Fernando scenery. Adding more to this movie is its high-energy soundtrack, which features a bunch of classic rap and hip-hop tracks from California artists like Tupac, Ice Cube, and of course Snoop Dogg, which help maintain energy in the heat of the action and light mood outside of it. The movie lives and breathes California, and this gives it a unique sense of style that I enjoyed. It reminded me a lot of classic buddy action movies like Beverly Hills Cop and Lethal Weapon, which didn't rely as much on computer-generated effects. In this sense, it does feel antiquated with its story structure, but its entertainment value makes up for this. Overall, Day Shift is an exciting vampire action flick that has been done before, but the way it's done here is a blast to experience. If you like buddy action comedies and you want to see one that's done in a more traditional way, cliches included, I think you'd definitely enjoy this one. Vampire action movies are nothing new, and this one still has its fair share of tropes, but the way they're blended with new concepts make it worth watching, and it helps that it's elevated by the chemistry of its two leads. If there's ever a sequel, I can only imagine how creative the Night Shift will be. What did you think about this movie? Did you enjoy the action scenes and the way they were filmed, or was its story too tropey and cliche? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Day Shift. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the American musical, 13 the Musical. Bye bye!